This is Freedom Pulse from Act for Missouri. In this third episode on the new Amendment 3, we look beyond compromise to a better, consistent path. What a personhood amendment could look like. When leaders tell us this is the best we can do, we must ask, best for whom? For the unborn child? Or for political comfort? Missouri's Constitution says government exists to secure the people's rights. If it refuses to secure the right to life, it fails in its chief design. A personhood amendment applies that principle to everyone, born or unborn, because every human being is created in the image of God from conception. That isn't extremism. That's equality before God and law. What follows isn't a final proposal. It's an example, based on earlier Missouri bills like Senator Mike Moon's SJR 8 and similar efforts in other states. It shows how a constitutional amendment could affirm life at conception and still answer common objections briefly and clearly. Section 1. Purpose of government. That all constitutional government is intended to promote the general welfare of the people, that all persons have a natural right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the enjoyment of the gains of their own industry, that all persons are created equal and are entitled to equal rights and opportunity under the law, that to give security to these things is the principal office of government, and that when government does not confer this security, it fails in its chief design. This first section reaffirms government's original purpose, to secure the right to life. If our laws allow the innocent to be killed, government has failed in its chief design. Amendment 3, by contrast, writes exceptions into that duty. Section 2. Definition of person and human being. For purposes of this Constitution and the laws of this state, the words person and human being include every living member of the species Homo sapiens, possessing a unique DNA sequence from the moment of fertilization until natural death. This closes every loophole. No court or politician can redefine life by age, size, or circumstance. It grounds legal personhood in scientific fact, unique DNA from conception, and moral truth, that all are image bearers of God. Section 3. No right to abortion. Nothing in this Constitution shall be construed to secure or protect a right to abortion, or to require the public funding of abortion. This prevents activist courts from turning the Constitution into a pro-abortion weapon, as happened under Roe v. Wade. It ensures Missouri's highest law protects people, not procedures. Section 4. Equal consideration in medical emergencies. In any rare circumstance in which a pregnant woman's life is in immediate jeopardy, both her life and the life of her unborn child shall be afforded equal consideration, and every reasonable medical effort shall be made to preserve both lives. This is true compassion, valuing both mother and child equally. It rejects the false claim that personhood laws would deny care in emergencies. The goal is always to save both lives whenever possible. Section 5. Equal justice and due process. Enforcement of this section shall be subject to the same legal principles, defenses, justifications, laws of parties, immunities, and clemencies as apply in cases of homicide or assault involving persons who have been born alive. This guarantees due process. Every case would follow the same investigative and judicial procedures as any other homicide: evidence, defense, jury, appeals, and the opportunity for mercy. It also ensures equal accountability. The man who pressures or pays for an abortion, the person who performs it, and anyone aiding the act are all subject to the same law, just as all parties in any other murder are. Justice here means fairness and consistency, not cruelty. Section 6. Protection for miscarriage and life-saving care. No woman shall be criminally prosecuted for the unintentional loss of her unborn child, resulting from natural causes, spontaneous miscarriage, or lawful medical treatment provided to avert her death or substantial and irreversible physical impairment, when the death of the unborn child is an unintended and unavoidable result. This refutes the fear tactics used by opponents. Women are not prosecuted for miscarriages or for legitimate medical care. It protects both life and justice, removing confusion and fear. Section 7. Self-executing and due process. The provisions of this section are self-executing and shall be enforced consistent with due process and the equal protection of the laws. This means the amendment would take effect automatically upon passage. It cannot be twisted to bypass constitutional rights. It must always operate through due process and equal protection. This sample amendment is short, direct, and comprehensive. It closes loopholes, protects every life, and guarantees fairness under the same legal system we already trust. That's what a personhood amendment could look like. Justice without compromise and compassion without contradiction. How Amendment 3, H.J.R. 73, compares. Amendment 3, H.J.R. 73 allows abortions for rape, incest, and fetal anomaly, with no safeguards against false claims or abuse, no verification, no review. It protects procedures, not people. It divides the unborn into two classes, those worthy of life and those the Constitution says may be killed. One path is equality, the other is political convenience. Ironically, the greatest obstacle to a personhood amendment isn't the abortion industry. It's the pro-life establishment now promoting Amendment 3.
The greatest enemy of the end of abortion in this nation and in your state right now is the pro-life establishment and industry. I'm not talking about pro-life Christians. I'm talking about the machine. I'm talking about the industry. I'm talking about the leaders at the top. It's the greatest enemy. And I want to give you a story about what just happened. I was in Missouri 3 weeks ago. Our bill in Missouri, the church came together. We're able to get a bill into Missouri in both the Senate and the House. Wow. Happened in Texas this year too. Senate and House bills of equal protection. Praise God. That's nuts. 2 states, 4 bills. That's awesome. But our bill was being heard. I showed up to testify on behalf of our bill of equal protection in the state of Missouri. I sit down to testify on behalf of our bill of equal protection. And then following me were those who opposed the bill of equal protection in Missouri. Do you know who it was? The 2 leaders of the pro-life movement in Missouri. They sat down on record and they told the legislators not to pass this bill of equal protection for humans in the womb from fertilization.
Samuel Lee with Campaign Life Missouri to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 356.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Susan Klein representing Missouri Right to Life. I'm going on record in opposition.
Did not want it passed. You know who else was in the room that day? Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood was there that day. They sent their representative to come in and testify against our bill. They were sitting behind me. They were on the record to testify against our bill. Guess what? They didn't testify. Do you know why? Because they recognized that they had the 2 leaders of the pro-life establishment in Missouri doing their work for them.
We had a committee hearing. They only allowed 5 total minutes for the hearing. They allowed 2 for and 2 against. I spoke in favor of the bill. Someone else did. And then 2 people came and spoke against the bill, representing 2 organizations. You already know where I'm going. They weren't pro-abortion organizations. They were pro-life organizations. Missouri Right to Life, an affiliate, like these others, of the National Right to Life, and Campaign Life Missouri. Pro-life organizations who oppose equal protection under the law.
Groups like Missouri Right to Life have testified they will oppose any legislation that puts women seeking abortions at legal risk. They call that compassion. But it's the same reasoning Justice Harry Blackmun used in Roe v. Wade.
In the vast majority of the states, a woman was not a principal or an accomplice. This treatment may be taken as evidence that the legislature did not regard the fetus as having a status equivalent to that of a human being already born. Justice Blackmun.
That logic, that women cannot be held accountable, therefore the unborn aren't persons, became the cornerstone of abortion law. Since 1973, more than 60 million children have died under that premise. When today's pro-life leaders repeat that reasoning, they preserve the very argument that unleashed this tragedy. A personhood amendment restores moral consistency, equal value for both lives, and equal justice under due process. No fear, no vengeance, no exemptions from truth. Equal protection and equal justice. Equal protection says every life matters. Equal justice says every life deserves the same defense. The deliberate killing of an unborn child should be handled exactly as any other homicide, with investigation, trial, appeals, and full due process. And that accountability would apply to everyone involved: the man who pressures or forces a woman, the person who pays for it, or anyone who aids in taking that life. Just as all who participate in the murder of a 20-year-old would face justice, so should all who participate in the killing of the unborn. Justice isn't cruelty, it's consistency. What the data really shows. Supporters of Amendment 3 say it will save 95% of babies. But Missouri's data tells another story. After the 2022 heartbeat law, in-state abortions fell from 1,471 to 37. Total abortions by Missouri residents rose above 12,500 in 2023. Births rose only 0.4%, the smallest increase among similar states. Another sign that there was no impact. Abortions didn't stop, they just moved to other states or to mail-order pills. So we have to ask, if Amendment 3 only changes the venue or method of abortion but not the number, is that worth enshrining exceptions that deny justice to some children? The $100,000 poll and the political strategy. Missouri Right to Life even boasted, "We spent $100,000 to poll what Missourians want." This mystery polling data is their primary justification for why Amendment 3 is the only option Missouri voters will accept. But they don't provide numbers. They haven't released the results. If this amendment truly reflected Missouri's convictions, why hide the numbers? That secrecy leads to a deeper question. What's the strategy? After the 2024 vote, every major pro-life organization knew exactly what happened. They admitted that the only reason Amendment 3 passed that year was because of the lies, the same false claims that women would be denied treatment for miscarriages or ectopic pregnancies. Listen to Missouri Right to Life's own director, Susan Klein, describing it in her interview.
People were hearing lies from the abortion side about that people couldn't get care for miscarriage or ectopic pregnancy. They were lies. Absolutely, women could have got care for miscarriage and ectopic pregnancy.
That confirms what we've said all along. The vote didn't fail because Missourians rejected life. It failed because they were deceived. And if the truth had been told, we likely could have repealed that 2024 amendment outright. But instead of exposing those lies and fighting for a full repeal, the establishment chose a new Amendment 3, one that adds exceptions for rape and incest directly into our Constitution. Then she explains why they're waiting until 2026, admitting it's a matter of political calculation.
I think the larger electorate's better.
It is. And actually, realistically, November of 28 would have been a better election.
So it's not about protecting life now. It's about finding the most convenient election year. Political timing, not moral urgency. Next, she acknowledges the compromises baked into their proposal, and she admits the choice they made.
I guess my question would be, do you think, as the person who knows more about this than anybody in this state, you could have taken the 2018 law and passed that in a statewide initiative?
We polled on that. And
What'd you
right
find out?
now, it doesn't poll that a personhood amendment would pass.
That's not conviction. That's calculation. Choosing what seems winnable over what is right. And finally, when asked why they needed more time, she says it outright.
You
Florida.
can do in 2025, it sounds like, is give money.
Absolutely. We need money. We've got a year and we've got more time in this battle, but we need money.
More time. To raise money. Not to save lives, not to bring truth, but to fund a campaign. So we must ask the obvious question. If they know the last amendment passed only because of lies, and if telling the truth could have defeated it, why are they pushing a new amendment that locks exceptions into our Constitution instead of fighting to repeal the old one? Did they design this proposal to end abortion, or to keep the fight alive for another election cycle? Because every safe, legal, regulated abortion still ends a human life. There is no moral victory in making the killing cleaner. All of this brings us to a simple truth. If we genuinely want to end abortion in Missouri, we can't settle for clever strategies or carefully timed campaigns. We need moral clarity. A personhood amendment, like the one we've outlined, isn't about politics or polling. It's about principle. It affirms that every human being, from the moment of fertilization to natural death, is a person under the law, entitled to equal protection and equal justice. It answers the false claims head-on. It protects legitimate medical care, guarantees due process, and treats every life, mother and child, with equal compassion and accountability. This isn't theoretical. It's the framework that could finally abolish abortion in Missouri, rather than regulating it for another generation. Now, each of us will have to decide for ourselves where we stand on this legislation. Don't take anyone's word for it. Pray. Study the text of Amendment 3 and watch the first 2 episodes of our series on Amendment 3 to see precisely what it says and what it does. Ask God for wisdom and conviction. If, after prayer and study, you agree that a personhood amendment, one that abolishes abortion and restores equal justice, is the right path forward, make your voice heard. Let your legislators know that Missourians expect them to do what is right, not what is politically expedient. Tell them equal protection for every unborn child is not negotiable. We can correct the lies, repeal injustice, and make Missouri the first state to defend every life under one law. But it will take courage, yours and ours. We know this message challenges powerful voices, but truth demands courage. Open your mouth for the mute. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. Proverbs 31, 8-9. Equal protection and equal justice aren't extremes. They're righteousness in action. Pray, share, act, and stand for every life. Act for Missouri. Protect life. Abolish abortion. This is Freedom Pulse.